Welcome back. In this video, we're going to handle two issues that you may or may not have noticed. Now, one of those issues is something we can see if we go into our attribute set, where we level up here. We set our health and mana to their max values. Now, if you did any testing, you may have noticed that we're not getting those globes filled up when we level up. All you have to do is go and get damaged a few times to see that. We'll let Aura get hurt a few times, and then we can just level up. And we should see, we would expect to see our globes to fill. And they fill slightly, but not all the way. So why do they not fill all the way up? Well, we're setting our health and mana to our max health and max mana values. And these depend on level. Now, we're changing our level, and you would think because we're adding to our player level first, that our max health and max mana will be adjusted, but it doesn't actually happen right away. In fact, it doesn't happen until post-gameplay effect execute is already finished. We can see that by pressing play, then coming back and placing a breakpoint right at set health, and then we can go into MMC max health and place a breakpoint here. Now if we go and level up, we'll see that set health and set mana get called first, and if we click resume, our MMC is executed after. So for that reason, we're going to have to go about this a little bit differently. Now, an MMC like this is applying a modifier to our max health, and when it does so, it changes the max health's current value, not its base value. Now, there are functions on the attribute set to respond to changes to current values. In fact, we can have something happen after we've set our max health and max mana. I'm going to go into my H file for Aura attribute set. I'm going to find U attribute set and click on it so I can go to it. And I'm going to search for post gameplay effect. And here's post gameplay effect execute. But notice there are all these other functions. Pre-attribute change, which we've overridden. We have post-attribute change. We also have pre-attribute base change and post-attribute base change. Now, in the case of an MMC, we're not changing the base value, so we don't want post-attribute base change. We want post-attribute change. Here is where we can do something in response to our max health or max mana changing. So what I'd like to do is copy this line and go back to Aura attribute set and override this function post attribute change. And I'm going to mark it with override here and go ahead and generate a definition for this. Well, if my max health just changed, then I know I can set my health to max health if we're leveling up. Now, if you only change your max health when you're leveling up, same for your max mana, you can just check, is max health the attribute that's changing? If so, set our health to max. Now, in some games, you may have changes to your max health when you're not leveling up. So in that case, we may wish to know if this change is from a level up or not. So we can have a couple of booleans. I'll put them down here in the private section. I'll have B top off health. It'll be set to false. And I'll have a bool called B top off mana, also set to false. But we'll set these to true when we level up right here. So instead of setting health and mana, we'll set B top off health to true, and we'll set B top off mana to true. And when max health and max mana change, we'll check those booleans here. So here in post attribute change, since we have the gameplay attribute, it's called attribute, we'll say if attribute is equal to get max health attribute. And we can have an and here and check B top off health. If these are true, then we can set health equal to the value of max health. So get max health here. And we can do the same for mana. We can say if attribute equals get max mana attribute and B top off mana, then we can top off mana. We can say set mana, get max mana, and our mana will be topped off too. Now, if this is true, be top off health, then we should consume that Boolean. In other words, we should set it back to false. So we'll say be top off health equals false here. And same goes for mana. We'll set be top off mana equal to false as well. And that way, we can have changes to our max health and max mana even when we're not leveling up. And only if we're leveling up will we max out health and mana. With that, let's give this a test run and see if our globes get filled up when we level up. So back in the editor, I'm going to press play. I'm going to get hurt a little bit. So just letting the goblin stab me a few times. I'll let it get down to maybe halfway or so. And then I'll run away and see if I can kill one and level up. There we go, and my health has been topped off. Now, the most important thing about this is when they hit me again, it should look like the amount that's being subtracted is correct. We don't want it to go down to, say, almost 0 from getting hit once. So let's see. Yeah, that looks right. That looks perfect. And if we cast a spell, then that also looks correct. So it looks like we have the effect that we wanted. Let's try that again by leveling up one more time. And see if we get topped off here. Boom, there it goes. And if we get stabbed, then it appears that we're taking the appropriate amount of damage. Everything is working properly. So that was the first issue I wanted to take care of. The next issue can be seen if we press play and dock our output log, and we go ahead and start playing the game. Let's get a level up. And there's the issue. I'm going to hit pause. Now, we've seen this error before. It's on the F-Gameplay Effect spec. It has to do with getting set by caller magnitudes that were never set. Now, we're getting set by caller magnitudes that were never set because we're applying a gameplay effect, event-based effect, which has 5 different modifiers, all of which are set by caller magnitude modifiers. Now, depending on the event tag that we receive in our passive gameplay ability, GA listen for event, when we receive a tag, then we assign a set by caller magnitude for that tag, but we don't assign a set by caller magnitude for the other 4. Now, in C++, this wasn't a problem because we could suppress that error message as there's a Boolean, but in Blueprint, we don't have that option to suppress it. So what we should do is every time we assign a set by caller magnitude for one of the tags, we should assign a set by caller magnitude of 0 for the other 4. And that way we won't get that pesky little error message. So here's how I'd like to do it. First of all, I'm going to have an array of gameplay tags, and we'll loop through. And for the gameplay tag that we've received, we'll set its set by caller magnitude as we're doing. But for the other 4, we'll set its set by caller magnitude to 0. So let's add a variable. We'll choose the type gameplay tag. We'll call this event tags, and we'll change its variable type here to an array. Now I'm going to compile and click plus 5 times and fill this array with the gameplay tags that our event-based effect has modifiers for. The first of those is going to be attributes meta incoming XP, and the other 4 are our primary attributes. So for the next one, we'll do intelligence, for the next one, we'll do resilience, the next one will be strength, and the next one will be vigor. So now that we have this array, as soon as we've received an event, we'll loop over that array. So to prevent this blueprint from getting out of control, I'm going to make sure this is nice and organized. For one, I'm going to delete on-end ability. I don't need it. Next, in wait gameplay event, when an event is received, I'm going to cache off the event tag and the event magnitude. So I'm going to take event tag, promote it to a variable. I can just let it be event tag. And I'm going to take event magnitude and promote that to a variable and let that be called event magnitude. In addition to that, I'm going to cache off the outgoing spec. Remember, these Blueprint Pure nodes are executed every time a node is reached which has a wire connected to them. So that can be dangerous. We don't want to keep making new outgoing effect specs. We just want one. So I'm going to promote this to a variable called spec. Now, these are being set here every time our ability is activated. But once per activation, we don't want to set them multiple times per activation. So we're only setting them here and then reusing them later. So after setting these, I'm going to loop over our event tags. So I'm going to get them and use a for each loop. And in the for each loop body, I want to check the array element, which is a gameplay tag. I want to check it against our event tag and see if they're equal. So I'm going to just break all of these wires and move this out of the way. And I'm going to make a branch here. And in the loop body, what I'm going to check is to see if my array element, which is a gameplay tag, matches our event tag. So I'm going to say matches tag, and I want it to match exact. So I'm going to take my event tag. Remember, this is the tag that we received from our event. And as we loop through our event tags, there's 5 of them. Once we find the one that matches, that's the one we're setting our set by caller magnitude for. So we're going to assign tag set by caller magnitude using the event tag as the data tag, our event magnitude as the magnitude, and we cached off our spec handle. We called it spec. So I'm going to go ahead and break these wires. And for the true case, this is for the tag we received in our event. So we're going to hook this up to true. But for all 4 of the other tags, we're going to assign tag set by caller magnitude for that tag, the array element here, to 0. But we're going to use the same spec handle. So I'm going to use spec for that. And we're going to hook up the false case. So for the one tag in our array that matches the event that we received, we're assigning a set by caller magnitude using that event magnitude we cached off. But for the other 4, we're setting its magnitude to 0, just because we need it set. Now, in the completed execution pin for the for each loop, we can finally apply the gameplay effect spec to self. So we're going to hook completed up to apply gameplay effect spec to self, but we need to hook in spec for the spec handle. So by the end of this, we'll actually have applied the gameplay effect. Let's go ahead and get this pulled out just a little bit. And we can organize this just a little bit more, like so. So this has the same effect. The only difference is we're never omitting to assign a set by caller magnitude that exists in the gameplay effect spec that we're applying. We're setting the one that matters, and we're setting all the others to 0. So with that, we can press play, and we can level up like so, and we no longer get that warning. Well, it's actually an error. So that takes care of that. Excellent. So now that we've polished a couple things up, it's time to polish the look and feel of our attribute menu. I'd like it to look excellent and sound great. I'd like some hover sounds, some click sounds. I'd like it to sound and feel like a real menu, and we'll do that next. Great job. I'll see you soon.